Hi, welcome everyone. This is the Gluon Reactor community call. And yeah, we're very pleased to have everyone joining us today. This is going to set off a kickstart a bit of a launch campaign around the Gluon Reactor network from the core team at Gluon. So yeah, there's going to be a bit of opportunity at the end for Q&A, but most of this call we're going to be, for the first time, really announcing and giving some key details there around what Gluon Reactor achieves, how it's different to the previous kind of Gluon network, which was plasma-based and limited more to just scaling Ethereum. And yeah, we're going to actually do a live testnet demo. So yeah, really pleased to have everyone here. And yeah, looking at the agenda now, we'll kind of cover off the order of things that we're going through. Also, there is going to be an alpha program. What we're showing today in the testnet demo is very much around kind of what's there as a testnet, and we want to engage developers and app builders to join in on that. So yeah, do queue up your questions as well, and looking forward to kind of walking through these 4 parts, really giving you guys some insight into what has been built and where we're going. Great. So yeah, let's come down. I want to bring on Shanky, who's going to talk to us a little bit in this first part about what are some of the kind of current problems.
Okay, yeah, let's jump in. Yeah, so I think firstly, thank you so much, each one of you who's taken out your time and from your busy routines and come here to listen to our awesome story around Gluon Reactor. So it's a very exciting moment for us. It's something that is incredibly exciting and a quantum jump from where things are today. And we certainly want to not only share the underlying details, but we want to show you some of the stuff, some of the goodness. So before we jump in and talk about what Gluon Reactor is, I'm going to take a couple of minutes just to set the context so that we are all on the same page. We are all sort of viewing the world with a perspective that is commonly shared. And then, of course, we'll talk about how Gluon Reactor plays in this world. And like I said, you'll get to see some stuff as well. So all very soon, right, in the next few minutes. So first things first, I think I want to recognize the fact that this year, and in fact, even the last year, has been incredible, right? Like there's never a dull moment in the world of crypto, but I think the last couple of years have seen so much innovation, so much excitement that really it's bubbling with that energy. The whole ecosystem has really seen a lot of new things come forth and a lot of newer kinds of applications and a lot of newer kinds of energy. What we did see with the rise of the so-called DeFi and the whole sort of DeFi summers and then on to its emergence through 2020 and now is that we also saw frustration, right? And we saw frustration because we started seeing congestion on the blockchain, right? Especially on Ethereum. We started seeing exorbitant and very expensive gas fees, right? Which got everybody thinking that Ethereum was really only for rich people. And we also saw all kinds of other frustrations around newer applications finding it too expensive or too limiting in terms of launching newer protocols or newer kinds of capabilities. What that led to, of course, as we all know now, is the emergence of a bunch of ETH challengers or ETH competitors on one side. And the other thing that we also saw was rapid growth around just scaling technologies. A lot of them essentially in the layer 2 or L2 chains that emerged over the last year or so. Now, in terms of the different blockchains, we saw the emergence of the Binance Smart Chain, which we all know is a copy of Ethereum, but did see its own traction and growth. We saw the reemergence of Matic in the shape of Polygon, We saw the rise of Polkadot, and we've also been seeing the rise of Solana. So a bunch of different competitors came in, primarily because there was plenty of frustration around just congestion and gas fees and all the limitations that Ethereum was seeing. Um, at the same time, like I mentioned, there's also plenty going on the L2 side of the world, right? Some of you probably who use leverage today are totally aware how we had already made a huge mark there, and upped the user experience by creating what we call Gluon rollups, something that was derived of the original Plasma spec, and then innovated a fair amount in terms of adding a bunch of different features, including rolling up things and making it really the most practical L2 solution for the DeFi world. However, as we saw all these, different sorts of challenger chains come up and the L2 chains come up, I think one big frustration was really around the fact that it was very siloed and very fragmented, right? And I think some of you would probably, like, who are listening to me, are nodding your heads, as the reality that we all have been in is that we have now got our assets just sort of sharded across these multiple chains, right? We've got a little bit of stuff sitting on BSC, a little bit sitting on Ethereum. Some of us are trying some stuff on Matic, and then some of the other ones, early adopters, are trying to figure out if the newer chains are worth it. Now that's all great. There's a lot of innovation, lots of good stuff, but what is frustrating and what is limiting is that there is very little practical solution out there for do really good cross-chain unified DeFi, right? And that's something that I think a lot of people are, sort of struggling with. And then, of course, last but not the least, there are a whole bunch of coins and tokens, that have been issued, that people have invested in, that a ton of assets are locked up in, things around the big king of crypto, BTC itself, and then of course a whole bunch of other coins, right, from Litecoin to BCH to what have you. And in fact, all of that network, in some sense, has been sort of siloed off or moved off the whole DeFi story that is happening, right? They aren't really seeing a lot of goodness there. So anyway, not to ramble more on this, but hopefully that gives everybody the sort of unified view of where the pain points are. And I'm sure that there are a lot more stories that each one of you have, a lot of personal stories. But where we come in and where Gluon Reactor comes in, which is the exciting sort of new world, is to make this really this unified platform, right? And what we are accomplishing and where we are today is really sort of unifying these blockchains and providing this unified, smooth, seamless DeFi experience. The idea is to simultaneously achieve 3-4 different goals, right? We end up achieving the scaling goals, we end up achieving the effectiveness goals around low gas fees and higher throughput and better user experience. And then, of course, we get rid of all these sort of fragmentation and siloing that has been happening across the chains, right? We allow for that really easy way to combine and mesh them together and do things across chains. So that's where Gluon Reactor comes in, right? And as you see in the slide that we put up here, what it's really sort of conveying in short, and I'm not going to walk through every bit of this, but just sort of give a high level picture, is that really Gluon Reactor is out there to solve this problem from multiple people's viewpoint, right? So one is, of course, the unification of chains. The second thing is this whole thing around these different participants, right? People come in from a demand standpoint where they want to, earn passive yields, or they want to come and trade crypto, right? Or they come in from a supply standpoint where you've got all this liquidity provisioning and market making that's going on. Or they are developers, right? Developers who are comfortable with the EVM and Solidity and the entire sort of development tools that have become quite popular over the last few years. And then last but not the least, many of us, including us at part of the Gluon and the overall leverage umbrella, are big fans of decentralization, right? And we want these DAOs and decentralization to be real in terms of staking and voting and nodes being managed by multiple people by the community, right? And what Gluon Reactor is really doing is bringing it all together, making it real, right? Making something that that is both good and easy to use, but also achieving all of these different goals that we've all been meaning to achieve. Let me pause at that and just mention that you will see a lot of this, right? Words don't mean anything without action. We are always one of those people, and today you will see some of the stuff in action, and hopefully you will go out of this presentation more as a believer, more excited, more energized with the endless possibilities that come with Gluon Reactor. Okay, so with that said, I'm going to stop sort of, talking more to it. And like I said, I think we need to start seeing some stuff. And this is probably the perfect time for us to jump in. Let's look at what's possible. And let's also look at some amazing demo, simple, but just magic that you guys will get a glimpse of. So with that said, I'm going to pause here. Paul, do we have Bharat with us? Maybe we hand it over to him.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, perfect. Take it over, Bharat. Let's see the magic.
Right. So just to outline the problem statement that we're going to address in the demo today. Many of you have tokens on probably on the Ethereum chain, and you want to use a application that's on a different chain. Right. So let's say you have Pancake Swap or Sushi Swap or something else that's on a different chain. Right now, you are unable to do that because you are on your token is on Ethereum. There are ways to do that. For example, Matic / Polygon can create a bridge. You would have to take your source code of your contract. You have to modify it. You have to deploy it on the Matic chain, and then you would have to send both the addresses and send it to the team. They would link it, and then you have a link. So this is how you can sort of do it. And this works only for tokens. So we also want to address other chains, the other important chains that are kind of outside the DeFi world right now, like Bitcoin, Litecoin, Dogecoin, and the whole set of new chains. There are literally hundreds of chains. So although we are showing the demo on Ethereum right now, what we are doing will be available for all chains eventually. So this is essentially MetaMask. This is on Dropstone, and I have some test ETH and I have some test tokens. So what we're going to do is we're going to send these from Ethereum testnet to a Phantom testnet. Okay. And it's pretty straightforward. Sending is, just need to send it to this particular address. So, and let's say we send 5,000. All right, so we're just waiting for confirmation. And the number of confirmations essentially depends on the finality of the source network. So on Ethereum, it will probably be something like 25 confirmations. On testnet, we are just using 5 confirmations so that it's easier to demo and so on. On certain other networks, like for example, Phantom network, the finality is 1 second. So everything will be pretty much instantaneous, or not instantaneous, but it's very high, very fast finality. So let's see if the network is a bit slow today. Right. So for in this setting, what's happening is that we are sending a token or any token to the phantom network. You just need to send to an address on the Robson, and it automatically appears on the destination network. The reason we have chosen phantom, again, as I said, it's fast finality, low cost. Essentially, it has most of the characteristics that are suitable for in an application of our. So yeah, we do have 2 confirmations. We just wait for 3 more, and we should. All right, so we see it there. So far nothing special has happened. We have just moved it to what we call a gateway address. The tokens or any assets sent to a gateway address appear on the reactor network. So this was Robson. Three block confirmations, 5 block confirmations. So we should see this number increase pretty soon.
Bharat, are we actually bridging the token, or I picked up you were talking about a gateway there as kind of a different concept to a bridge. Do you want to explain the nuance there?
Right. So a bridge is essentially a point-to-point connection between 2 networks for a particular asset, and it is explicitly set up and configured, and a process needs to run, a special process needs to run for that pair of assets on those pair of networks. On a gateway, it's essentially between 2 networks. So think of it like you have a room full of which has different doors, and you have a house full of rooms, and each room has doors of different colors, and you open the yellow door in any room, it always takes you to the kitchen. Similarly, you open the red door anywhere and it takes you to the theater room, something like that. So you can see here the tokens have arrived. So this was 683, now it's 5683. Those were the 5,000 tokens we sent. So now these are on a completely different network. We had sent it from Robson Ethereum testnet. Now it's on Phantom testnet. So once it's on Phantom testnet, you can do something with it. So what we're going to do is we're going to try to swap it for ETH. So let's swap. The price impact is too high. Okay, let's do this, and let's swap it. So this is actually SushiSwap running on. So this is our little instance because we had to make some fixes. 5%. Yes, let's do it. So we can view it on Explorer. It just needs to be testnet. And it's already, it's Phantom is a great network. It's already confirmed. We already have. We should have another 0.6 ETH. So we have got the swap here, and we got an additional 0.6 ETH. So this was 0.1 something. Now it's 0.17. So what we can do is we can send it back to Robson, and then it should be available as native Ether over there, right? So let's send it. So this address is for Ethereum, and let's send 0. Let's say 420 based on my time on my clock here, and it's already confirmed. So if it's confirmed, then I should see it on my local Robston. I should see transactions. And here is the 420 ETH I had sent. So what has happened in the demo is that I have taken one of my tokens, I've sent it to a completely different network. I have used a DeFi app on that network, which is SushiSwap in this case. I have repatriated the new asset that I swapped for to my source network, and I have it here. All of this is pretty much seamless. It is all, there's no special UI you need. So this essentially works with any wallet. We've used MetaMask because it's everywhere, but it works with essentially any wallet because it's part of the network. It's just you send to an address, and it essentially just pops up in any network you want. So in this example, we had Ethereum testnet and the Phantom testnet, but it's very simple to extend it to Binance Chain, Polygon/Matic, pretty much essentially any chain. And we've shown you Ether in this example, but we also are planning to support a Bitcoin, Litecoin, really any token that has sufficient volume can easily be plugged into it. What does this mean? It means essentially that you can now have DeFi with any network. So you could, for example, in the Sushi, I could have BTC here. I could provide liquidity BTC versus ETH, and I could trade tokens versus BTC, and so on. This is essentially what we have right now. We're still obviously working on. It's still very preliminary, and there's still a lot more work to be done. This is probably a good time for questions or.
Yeah, definitely start queuing up any questions in the chat. Already we've got one kind of around the roadmap. So yeah, let's perhaps switch back to the slides to get the roadmap kind of view up.
Yeah.
And Shanki, do you want to talk to that? And if people have technical questions, drop them in the chat and we'll pick those up in the Q&A.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, let's pick up the roadmap. But I do want to just recognize something, and I would love for Bharat to just kind of chime in for 1 second on this. So it seems like what we'll be able to do with Gluon Reactor is, for example, I could take DAI and ETH from Ethereum, move it over to Phantom, right? And then maybe take that Ethereum and swap it over for FTM token for that matter. And then take that FTM and my DAI, which is now moved from Ethereum to Phantom, and maybe take it over to Binance Smart Chain, right? And then swap my DAI there for BNB, and then bring BNB back onto any other chain that's supported with Gluon Reactor, right? So I think what you're really saying is that they all smoothly move and flow between all these chains. Is that right?
There's more than that. So no, what you said is correct, but there's more than that. Is that you don't need to set up anything special for any token or any asset, and it is going to work for all future tokens, all past tokens. There's no setup required for anything. So once we add support for a new network, all tokens on those network will be supported. Going and coming from to and from all other supported networks. So someone asked a question: how does this compare to a Cosmos IBC bridge? This is a lot more general, and this is a lot more flexible. So in theory, even before we create support for a network, if you send, those addresses will be active, and the moment we add support, all those assets will be seen. So it's a little hard to explain, but think of our system as when we say Internet of networks, Internet of blockchains. It's a kind of overloaded term. Cosmos uses it and so on. So, but there it's not not that automated, and it doesn't work in the same way. So for example, I don't and there the security of each network depends on the constituent and so on. So it's a little more involved than for me to describe it in this call, but we can definitely address that in maybe a separate call or a separate post or something like that.
Right, but if I may just surmise, and then we'll jump into the roadmap quickly, is what you're saying is if I create tomorrow, let's say a new ERC20 token on Ethereum, right? And let's just call it for the sake of a name, Awesome token, right? So if I create this Awesome token, and then I want to swap it over to Matic or Phantom or Binance Smart Chain or Solana and whatever else that is supported by Gluon Reactor, I don't have to do anything special. I don't have to define any special configuration, right?
That's
It'll
correct.
just work.
That's correct. For example, Cosmos is not able to send tokens from Ethereum to Matic or to Phantom. We can support basically almost any network that's ECDSA or EDDSA, signature scheme. Cosmos can only support things that are plugging into Cosmos, right? So that's the major difference. And yes, you're right. Any token without any setup can move.
Fantastic. Yeah. So that just opens up this, in my mind, I view it as it opens up the possibilities, right? There's no custom configuration, there's no custodial agency, and also it's truly permissionless, right? Like nobody needs to get anybody's permission to say, hey, is my token swappable? If that network or chain is supported, every token on that network or chain is swappable, right?
That's correct. There is nothing to do for to add a new token. There's nothing to do. You just send it to this address and it's automatically added, right? So that's one of the great things, completely permissionless. I also want to address one of the questions. How does it benefit L2 token and so on? So the nodes, they do have governance needs, and think of the role of L2. The L2 will play the role of REN tokens in the REN network. One of the things we do. There's all obviously other things such as using L2 as collateral for apps on this new network, and governance for these apps and so on.
Right. And I just want to chime in a little bit on that, sort of extending what Bharat mentioned. There's already all of that, plus what you're seeing today, right? So if you use the current app and add more apps, whether it's revenue and any other thing flowing through it, the L2 token holders will benefit from it. And then these additional things that are coming on board, right? So it's not in place of it, but these are just additional things, additional capabilities that will come on board.
Right. Yeah, that's correct. And I want to address this question about is there a multi-sig controlling funds? So the funds are actually held using threshold signatures. So it's essentially the same thing what REN and Thorchain and are using. So the nodes, the testnet nodes, essentially collectively control the access to the funds. And unlike Thor or whatever, there is no separate fast funds that are in a separate cache that are controlled by a single node. Here everything is controlled by all the nodes. There's no separate, there's no slow and fast or any of this stuff. It's just everything is fast. So it's more safe. There is no risk of having one node go rogue with the with its personal bucket or anything like that, right? And the way the nodes are selected, all of these, some of these are still being finalized, but the idea is that it will be completely decentralized. So the nodes have to stake some assets to essentially to act as a bond, and the network essentially picks the participants from that smart contract. So there is no configurations that have to be shared. There's, the participants don't have to. So it's essentially everything is bootstrapped. So the testnet node doesn't know anything except that it is participating. It finds all the peers. It finds who has staked. It sorts it by who staked the most, and then it creates a network, and then starts functioning. Right, one more question: how will you decentralize the nodes? Will it be based on L2 staking kind of like? Yes, it's so the thinking right now is we're going to do delegated staking. So delegated proof of stake. So if you have L2 tokens, you can also delegate them to other nodes, right? And the tokenomics is going to change, guys. I can tell you our thinking now, but that is something that is going to get vetted by a lot of our partners, industry experts, cryptography experts. So I just want to tell you right now, it probably will change. But our thinking is that the nodes will stake the tokens, the Delta tokens, and probably some other assets to serve as a bond. And based on the amount delegated to that node and some other parameters, the revenue will be shared, right? So the revenue, we have a few models. One is the deposit fee, withdrawal fee, which in the beginning can be zero, and in the future we have the option to take a tiny piece of every ERC20 transfer. So when we did this on SushiSwap, we can take a tiny piece of this, right, of the transfer. And it doesn't matter who writes apps on this. There could be hundreds of apps written by others. A tiny piece of every transfer will accrue to the L2 stakers.
Okay, wonderful. Do we have more questions coming in, or should we look at the roadmap? I think
I think there's a couple of questions I can ask. How to keep track of my assets? It's essentially, you actually do have assets on multiple chains. You don't have it. So MetaMask does a good job. You also have many other portfolio apps which already work with multiple chains. You can use any of them. So we don't really need to create anything else. Another question: can I use one wallet address? You can use one wallet address, definitely. For each chain, you can use essentially the same wallet address. And what happens is, on chains like Bitcoin, the address will look different. It's essentially the same. You have to. So for other chains where the address doesn't look like Ethereum addresses, there is a little bit of conversion. So that is something that is still being developed. Once we have it ready, we will create another episode where we discuss those. Will Reactor launch with numerous networks in place? Yes, we already have. We're going to start with the Ethereum and Phantom, and as I said, the reason is Phantom has sub-second finality. So from there you can send it to anywhere else. So Matic, I think, has about 30 seconds or something like this finality. We're still discussing with them. Ava has I think 2.5 seconds. Solana has half a second, but Solana is a completely different style of ecosystem, right? Their smart contracts, everything is different. So that's going to be a little later in the system. So most of the earliest things you can expect is Ethereum, Phantom, Binance Chain, and Matic. And then we want to add, of course, Bitcoin, which is I think a heavyweight. We don't want to neglect it. And then we will add all the other chains. And this is something we can offer a bounty, or we can open source a bunch of these things so that everyone can contribute.
Yeah, and I think once we support Bitcoin, we could definitely support all the Bitcoin clone chains, right? Like the Bitcoin derived chains, so Dogecoin, Litecoin, all that stuff as well.
Right. They're essentially, when you say Bitcoin, yeah, all of them are same family.
Yeah, the whole family. And so you could basically do Litecoin versus BNB swaps, if you may, on any of these chains potentially, right?
Right. And I think the idea is, so one of the reasons we have created this chain in this way is that we can create exotic products that don't exist but are very attractive. For example, imagine a covered call where you can use your Bitcoin as collateral and you can earn the premium in terms of ETH or stable coin or something like that. So right now, If you have Bitcoin, your DeFi options are limited. You can lend it on nexo.io or something like this and get some interest. But it's not the same as being able to get into the the DeFi Lego ecosystem, where you can plug and play different pieces and have that composability. You can borrow from something like Aave. All of this stuff you can only do with some kind of smart contract support, some kind of EVM. I don't want to say EVM, but definitely smart contract support. So Bitcoin essentially is left out of it right now. The number one market cap coin is left out of it pretty much. So we want to bring that, and of course all the siblings, and then we think that those will enable us to create some very interesting products.
Very cool. Do we have more questions, or should we jump into the roadmap a little bit?
Let's jump into the roadmap.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So let me quickly kind of talk through the big sort of pieces or the milestones where we are right now and where we're headed. So what you see today, obviously, it's the last day of June. We just walking into the second part of the year, but a lot has happened in the first part of this year. Obviously, this concept wasn't just done overnight, right? It was built through a good part of Q1, and then of course what you saw today is basically a result or outcome of all the experimentation and the work and the development that has happened through the last few weeks and months. So this is just the beginning. There is active development in progress, and our hope and expectation and target rather is to bring something out in the coming month in July. We are calling it the alpha phase. It is the initial phase, if you may, where external members would be able to sort of touch and feel it and start giving some feedback. Starting August, fall of 2021, I think we'll start getting ready towards a beta phase where we can start seeing again, more chains, more apps, more things on top of it. And then we are expecting that, mid of the fall season, essentially around September of 2021, we should be ready to go live with many pieces, if not all. Now, of course, do remember that this is a journey, right? Not everything can be done overnight, and maybe that is not even the right way to approach this. So we'll obviously go iteratively. We will keep shipping, we'll keep adding features, and so you should probably see a lot of development, a lot of things coming through fall into the following year, which is 2022 and beyond. But now is the time when I think the community can put their hands on this, and the kind of excitement begins, right? And so stay tuned, right? There would be opportunities at multiple levels. There'll be opportunities to participate as potential validators. There'll be opportunities to build apps on this network, and the beauty is that it reuses what is already popular, the whole sort of EVM and Solidity and the smart contract stack. And so if you already know how to build apps for Ethereum or for other similar networks, you're probably already ready, and you can plug in very sort of effortlessly. If you want to support some of these sort of cross-chain assets, you can start letting your imagination go wild over the next few weeks, and we'd be happy to ideate. And then, of course, if you are an L2 holder, then you will also start seeing more opportunities to participate, right? So those are essentially the pieces that would come in. Do remember that the more immediate here and now piece that you would definitely be very keen to participate in and get feedback on, maybe the alpha phase and the testnet, right? So what you saw today is the first glimpse of the testnet, right? So the testnet is not out there in public. Think of this as a preview. We'll put a few things out in July, as I've mentioned. The exact dates and specifics will be communicated, and we'll communicate very actively. Once that is out there, I think there is a phase where we definitely want active feedback, right? We want active participation. We want people to play with it. Tell us if things are breaking. Hopefully that's not happening, but tell us nonetheless if you see any issues, and give us feedback, right? As you saw from this demo, the target is to make it seamless, effortless, right? So we are already going with that sort of target in mind, and if we can even up the game further and do more, do not hesitate, right? We want you to tell us. And so what we want to do is, again, the specifics will be shared in the following weeks, perhaps the next week or the following one, but surely within the next few days. We are thinking we may launch what we are calling an alpha program or alpha phase. And in this case, what we want to do is, instead of just having a loose sort of a process where, yeah, sure, let us know how it's going, we might formalize it slightly. And what that would mean is we will share venues where you can report your bugs or give your feature request or give us just feedback, or even if you're like thrilled and excited about it, there'll be a place where you can come and scream that out with excitement. And of course, for all the participation, for all the hard work you would do, we certainly want to figure out a way to reward you folks, right? And make sure that you do get something in return for being this early adopter, for being the supporter for this new next journey, if you may, in the larger Gluon journey. So again, stay tuned. You will hear more, about this in the coming days. You will also hear a lot more about tokenomics and documentation and a bunch of other specific things that will all be coming in small pieces, almost on a regular basis. So let me pause at that. Any other questions, please bring it on. We are all here to answer all kinds of questions, technical questions, business related questions, any thoughts, please do chime in.
Yeah, we had a question there from Madhu about the kind of cost of bridging. Does this actually reduce the cost?
Yeah, it eliminates the need for any bridging. So right now, when you say there's a bridge, when you want to move, for example, an ERC20 token from Ethereum to Phantom, it costs you about 100 FTM tokens. In Reactor, that doesn't exist. You just send your tokens and it just appears. So the cost, if any, is just going to be very tiny. Some gas cost and maybe a little bit of network cost. More importantly, the infrastructure to put the bridge in place, to run a big bridge process, separate server to run the bridge process, all of that is not needed at all.
Yeah, so that reduces a lot of the kind of custodial risk that we've seen in some of the bridges, say between Smart Chain and Ethereum, where they can be paused or halted at times. This is a lot more trustless.
Yeah, and in fact, there's another question, I think, which says how much a bridging transaction from Ethereum network will cost in comparison to regular token transfer. Well, my sense is it will be very comparable to a local regular token transfer. Yeah, I mean, that's how I think about this. In fact, the idea is to make it as easy and comparable to a regular token transfer, just in terms of speed and cost and everything. It should be that. And I think already Bharat and Paul have both chimed in that by taking out this custodial intermediary, by taking out these unnecessary processes, that's really the goal. Yeah, just make it simple, make it straightforward, make it cheap, and make it fast.
Yeah, I think that's one of the improvements I'm quite excited about over the previous Gluon network was, there was this kind of, registering a key, and when you deposited to Gluon, it was actually depositing into a smart contract, so it cost more than a token transfer. But now in this new model, a lot of that overhead's gone, so it should be very close to the cost of just a regular token transfer, and a lot easier for other DeFi apps to integrate, because they already know how to authorize and transact ERC20 tokens. So it makes it a lot easier for things to come in and out of Gluon in a DeFi-friendly money Lego kind of way. Okay, we've got another question around the kind of business side of things with the company treasury. That one's probably for you, Shanky.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think in short, we've got plenty of capital, so that's a good thing. As many of you know, we have been extra cautious and very prudent in how we spend, right? We are, in fact, one of the few teams that does not like to unnecessarily waste. What we like to do is spend on things that can add value and help our community members and our supporters get max value out of the platform and out of the ecosystem. So with that in mind, yeah, there is plenty of capital. That is the last thing we need to worry about at this point in time. And we have sufficient and more to get us to the milestones that we want to get to, which is essentially to create the robust Gluon Reactor platform and drive all the initiatives around it. So that's really what is there, and we feel blessed and lucky to be in that position.
Great. We've got another question around the AMM liquidity, and yeah, I guess it's also, is Gluon building an AMM, or is it part of actually just plugging into some of the AMMs that exist on the various chains?
I think the network effect is higher if we if we leverage existing AMMs, right? So otherwise, unless there's something that has differentiation, such as, for example, let's say we do something that has features of perpetual swap. Those are the kind of products we will do, but the mainline products that people are familiar with already have a big user base. We are more likely to take advantage of it instead of trying to compete with it. So our core product line continues to be derivatives and related. The basic products we will essentially enable all the products to kind of leverage each other using the DeFi Lego kind of model, and then we will create more interesting products. And there are a few reasons for this. One is the product space for an AMM is already saturated. There's many of them. There's one on every major network, and competing with the existing product, already established products with no real differentiation, I think this is not something we are interested in. We are interested in creating the next generation of products. What products people expect to see next year. That's the thing, or 5 years from now. And there are many like that. So we won't be doing AMS. We'll leverage AMS.
Great. And oh, there's one more coming in. That up.
Connecting MetaMask like any other dApps without need of
right. Yeah. Let me answer that. Yeah.
Sure. Go ahead.
That's correct. So you don't need to create a Gluon key. So just to reiterate on what Shanky spoke about during the beginning of the call. So in general, we identified 3 classes of problems that have prevented gaining rapid traction. One is liquidity itself, and we are going to address that by creating applications that crowdsource liquidity. Right. The second is the entire UX issue, where you have to create a Gluon key, you have to do a deposit, you have to when you want to do a withdrawal, you have to initiate the withdrawal and then wait for half an hour and complete the withdrawal. So these, we wanted to eliminate this as well. And the third, of course, is the whole geofencing issue and so on. So the Gluon Reactor essentially addresses these 3 major problems. It addresses others as well, but these are the 3 major goals. So as you saw, in the demo, I was able to go to SushiSwap and interact with it. No need to create any key, nothing. So that is exactly the way we foresee the design of all our future apps. So you'll be able to go in, and no need to create a key, no need to do a deposit. You just interact with an existing app, and by the end of that interaction, you are done. So that is the that's the key difference between the Gluon, the reactor UX, and the existing rollups and all of these, where you have to create a key and you have to store it in a browser and all of those issues. So with the speed that you'll get, right, the speed and finality you'll get, you will see no difference between, you'll see minimal difference between what you have in Gluon 1 versus Gluon Reactor. It will be minimal. It will be, instead of like the current exchange, of course, is very fast. It's literally if you are in Europe, it's 25 to 50 milliseconds to do an operation, because say Phantom has a finality of 0.8 seconds or so. It will look slightly slow. It will look like slightly sluggish, but for all practical purposes, your UX will be very smooth, and you will not have all the other issues of that affect roll-ups and plasmas and so on.
Yeah, I also just want to mention one small bit here that I'm sure some of you may be curious, is that with not just different chains, but also so many layer 2 technologies emerging in the world of Ethereum, would that lead to essentially fragmentation, right? And siloing off of the universes. And then, of course, there is a whole talk about bridges between them and so on and so forth. The beauty is that Gluon network really will work beautifully there as well, right? So any chain, as Bharat already mentioned, which supports those underlying cryptographic schemes, and obviously by design, all these layer 2 networks that support smart contracts will and do, you'll be able to easily move assets across them as well. So they would be also this big problem that people are already worrying about, how liquidity would be fragmented and how can you move things quickly between my various layer 2 chains that would all emerge over due course of time. A lot of those problems will also get addressed, just something to kind of keep in mind.
Right. So I want to answer a couple of questions. One is, what is the reason for not raising from VCs? Right. So I think that when the time is appropriate, we will certainly look to raising VCs. And so raising money it should never be done just for show or just for marketing. There are good reasons to raise money, and there are appropriate times to raise the money, right? So when money is raised, it will impact not just the valuation of the company now, it will impact valuation of the company in the future. So for example, when you have 10,000 revenue, raising money is a whole different thing than raising it when you have 1 million revenue and so on. Okay, so that is done by our finance team, and I don't want to say anything more than that. So that's to answer that question. Next question: does tokenomics change involve increasing supply? We don't believe so. So the token itself is fixed amount, what we have now. We don't feel the need to increase the supply at this moment. We just the node operators can just buy the tokens from the market and stake it. There's no emission or anything needed because it's a proof of stake. If it was proof of work, I would understand that could be an option, but I don't think we need to do that. Next question: doesn't simplifying the UX mean decreasing the security of all systems? Not really, no. So when so essentially proof of stake and proof of work have different security assumptions. So when you have something like a roll up, in a lot of the roll ups actually have admin keys. Some of them have it's just a variable that they store in the smart contract that they can change at any at their whim, right? So they're storing essentially they're compressing a series of changes and putting the variable, but they control the variable. So it depends on how it's written. So some teams have written it securely, others have just, they use it as a way to store a variable. So when you go to proof of stake, what happens is your security assumptions are essentially, I mean, it's well understood. I don't want to describe the whole thing here, but we will be moving to proof of stake security, which is similar to Cosmos and so on. Okay. What is the status of your relationship with Polygon team? Having their support on this would be huge. We are in, we are in touch with Polygon team. We will certainly talk to them and see how we can work together. We definitely see there's many opportunities where we can help each other. I don't think I can say anything more than that at this stage. But when there's something to disclose, we'll certainly disclose it to the community. Next question, do you plan to present this concept in conferences before going live in September? I think that is something I think the marketing team has to decide. Essentially we are, as we are working it, so every little piece of problem is solved, it actually changes our clarity and it changes what is possible. And there's a point at which that clarity is stable enough that we can go to a conference and discuss it. At this point, we think that things may change a little bit, but once the testnet is booted and once we have a few transactions, we have some real world data, because right now it's just conceptual. So once we have real world data on how what kind of throughput we can support, what are the kinds of attacks, and so on. Once we have a real world data, we'll certainly address this. We will certainly present at conferences and so on.
So I just want to add a little color to the last couple of questions. Bharat already gave a good picture on the fact that yes, we are very early and certainly will do it. But from a standpoint of, I know a lot of the community members have been interested and sometimes anxious to the extent that, hey, are you guys going to aggressively go out and talk about all the cool stuff that you guys are building, right? I'm kind of putting it like that. And will you go and actively partner with different ecosystems? So at one level, I think that this Gluon Reactor story is so complementary with so many things going on that I think that it has really very little to no friction in wanting to work with multiple teams. So I think, yes, absolutely, we will work with every possible good partner, and we will definitely work towards mutual benefit, not just we coming in that relationship and benefiting, but everybody benefiting from such a sort of chain of chains, if you may. And then the second part, the conference is just one piece of the puzzle. We certainly want, and we are very keen to aggressively go out there and spread the word. There's definitely the marketing team, which has got a plan and they actively want to execute against that. There's also, from a developer evangelism standpoint, we want to make sure that we enable the ecosystem and the developer audience to take advantage, right, of this chain of chains, and then build some amazing apps, right? There are, I'm sure, plenty of our apps that we haven't thought of. And just like when people got hold of smart contract, they came up with amazing things, right? Things from DeFi to NFT to what have you was really the imagination of all these excellent people out there, right? Who took the smart contract platform, who took the platform tools and just built so many wonderful things on top of it. We truly believe that I think once you have this cross-chain excellent experience, cross layers, cross chains, bridging that becomes real without custodial and other kinds of impediments, I think the ecosystem will come up with things that we probably haven't thought of. Things that us sitting on this side of the puzzle, whether it's Bharat or Paul or I or whoever else is trying to imagine today, I'm sure that the community will exceed that. The community is definitely going to come up with a lot more things that we haven't even conceived of today, right? So just to conclude on that, we certainly want to help our community. We certainly want to go out there, spread the word, and definitely champion this across as many people and as many different ecosystems as possible, and definitely work with them. So that's just something I wanted to put it out there, that's really in our interest and in everyone's interest. So I think we are almost towards the end of the puzzle, right, Paul? We've got some more stuff to cover, or I think we are almost there.
Yeah, we've just crossed the 1 hour mark, and yeah, I think there probably will be some more questions. So we've put up the Discord link there, and also in the chat. And yeah, I think there's a lot to digest. That was a pretty amazing kind of concept right through to demo, and yeah, there's still a lot more, as you were saying, around kind of refining the tokenomics, working with some of those other DeFi protocols and apps. And yeah, really trying to build the ecosystem around it. This is a lot more all-encompassing than what Gluon was in its previous incarnation. So yeah, it's exciting.
100%. Do you also want to share some of the other links, maybe the Twitter link handle? Yeah, there you go. So the website and the Twitter handle. The website will get updated quite a bit in the next few days. We definitely want to add on more Gluon Reactor specific content. So stay tuned there. And plus, of course, watch out for both the Twitter channel, the Twitter handle, as well as Discord group, the Discord server that Paul just shared. So I think stay tuned in all those places. There's plenty coming.
Yeah, and do you plan to do another community call?
I think so. I think that, and I'll let Bharat also speak to it. The idea is let's get to our next milestone from a development standpoint. I think, we are working super hard. Bharat is certainly driving that whole story very actively and very aggressively, along with, a bunch of incredibly smart people on the team. And I suspect that sometime in July, we might be ready to show more. And, there'll be time for another community call when we are ready with it.
Excellent. Well, yeah, I definitely think this one was really good. Great amount of content shared, and yeah, great to have everybody tuned in and asking those key questions on the spot. And yeah, let's keep the discussion going across those channels and on Discord. Perfect. Thanks everyone for joining. We'll wrap up there, and obviously this will be available as a replay on our YouTube channel. And yeah, jump in anytime. We're always happy to answer questions either on Telegram or Discord. Thanks again for tuning in.
Bye, guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye for now.